Alright, now listen. I titled that Pokemon video Pokemon Presents Hopes and Dreams because that's what they were, hopes and dreams. Realistically, I knew what I was hoping for and predicting in that video would not happen. We were going to get the standard mobile updates, the Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Detective Pikachu Returns trailer, but hey, a guy can dream, right? Maybe I shouldn't have. But today I want to talk about something that people think they might have been teasing in the trailer for the Scarlet and Violet DLC with some of the new characters and Pokemon designs. So before we get into that, I do want to say shout out to Andres Restart. I was on his podcast on Monday, and he alerted me to these discoveries and similarities between some of the trainers and new Pokemon with what we're going to be talking about today, and that is Pokemon Legends Kyurem, as we're coining it in the community, right? So Legends Arceus is my favorite Pokemon game of recent times, pretty by far, I would say. I think some people like Scarlet and Violet more, and that's fine, totally different games, but Legends Arceus was my favorite Pokemon game, at least since X and Y, but probably since Black and White too. So the idea of a new Legends game based on Unova is very, very exciting. So before we talk about any of that, let's go ahead and talk about the evidence of why people think this might be happening in 2024. So put on your tinfoil hat, this is the typical Pokemon conspiracy time. Keep that in mind. So there's two pieces of maybe coincidental evidence here. The first of which is Archaludon, which is an evolution of Duraludon from a Sword and Shield, and he heavily resembles the arches of a bridge. I mean, arch is literally in his name. Duraludon, of course, was like a skyscraper Pokemon. This one, evolution, going more for like a bridge. And you know what generation of Pokemon heavily consisted of a lot of bridges? Black and White, the Unova region, which of course was based on the US, but more specifically New York City, which has a ton of bridges, the Manhattan Bridge and all that. So that's the first one, and you might be thinking, okay, that's not that crazy, but it is a little weird, and Pokemon always does this. If you're new to this whole speculation game with Pokemon, they do typically start teasing things in the previous games. I remember back to, I think Sun and Moon had a poster of Dynamax Toxtricity or something. There was something like that in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I believe. Before that, there was the Hidden Souvenir, or the Secret Souvenir, Strange Souvenir, whatever it was called in X and Y, which was teasing Sun and Moon. They do this all the time. So it's not super far-fetched to think that they might start putting things in the Scarlet and Violet base game that we haven't even noticed, but also the Scarlet and Violet DLC that is hinting at the next project for Game Freak. So that's the first thing. Archaludon seems to be based on a bridge. Bridge is pretty big deal in Unova. But from there, we get to the much more interesting piece of information, and that's, of course, in my opinion, and that is the new Pokemon trainer, Perrin. So she's going to be introduced in the teal mask. She's the photographer who's going to introduce this new Pokemon Snap kind of minigame to the DLC. This character bears a striking resemblance to one Pokemon Legends Arceus Diamond Clan leader, Adaman. Of course, this is the main character in Pokemon Legends Arceus. If you played that game, I mean, look at them. They're very clearly related. Now, Legends Arceus takes place hundreds, I don't know, thousands of years in the past or whatever, right? So this is some far-off ancestral, relationship here, but they are very clearly related. So a lot of people think that because they're doing this now with Perrin, that perhaps it could be a fun little nod, sure, but maybe they're specifically teasing like, hey, we're doing this because there's a new Legends game coming out. Both those things might sound very far-fetched. It could just be a cute little nod, and I'm totally aware of that. But I've been in this Pokemon hype game so long, we usually get the game that we expect, if that makes sense. Usually people kind of have it pinpointed and figure out before the game is announced, like, okay, it's going to be a region based on Spain, or it's going to be a region based on France, or, these things usually are kind of sussed out before the announcement, and I feel like we're really starting to get that kind of, that pre-release hype going for the next game. Now, of course, this isn't going to be a new generation. This is a Legends-style game, supposedly, or we're assuming, right, like Legends Arceus, so it'll be part of Generation 9, maybe add, a dozen new Pokemon or so, and that'll be it. But like I said, Legends Arceus is the most fun I've had with a Pokemon game in many years. So the idea of a Unova-based Legends Kyurem, as I'm calling it, or as we're calling it, is so exciting, especially because I would assume this game will come out next year. I don't think Pokemon Company or Game Freak are going to go 2 years without a mainline game. I don't see why they would do that. In fact, in my Pokemon Presents Hopes and Dreams video, I specifically said that I think a Legend-style game could release in the spring, because I'm still flabbergasted by the way they Spitfire released Diamond and Pearl remakes, Legends Arceus, and Scarlet and Violet all in the span of like 12 and a half months. It still boggles the mind. I really don't know why they did that. And as I noted in that video as well, and what ended up being true, is they're releasing the Scarlet and Violet DLC a little sooner than we thought they would. Originally, the eShop said the second wave of DLC would release by spring of 2024, which fed a lot of Switch 2 speculation because there was a rumor saying there was going to be a performance patch in spring with the second DLC. That DLC is now confirmed for winter 2023, and the first DLC, the Teal Mask, is coming out on September 13th, which is technically before fall, which is what they originally had announced. So it seems like this DLC is actually a bit ahead of schedule, which I think further solidifies that a new Pokemon game will be announced on Pokemon Day, February, 27th, 26th next year. On the topic of it being Legends Kyurem, though, so if you don't know, Unova, Black and White, those are my favorite Pokemon games. I think they have the best story, the best region, the best Pokemon designs. I love Black and White. I love it so much. Now that we're finally getting to that point where these games are going to get some love, I'm very happy. I've seen a lot of people saying Black and White remakes, and I hear you. I do think that will happen. It is too soon, though. In fact, in my Hopes and Dreams video, I didn't even specifically say Legends Kyurem. I mean, I made a video last year talking about Legends Kyurem, and I did think in that video that a game like that would happen eventually, but because of the Mew or M teaser, I was like, oh, maybe it'll be like a Legends Mew game. It's been a while since we did Kanto again, so maybe it would be that. But if we're really getting Legends Kyurem next year, I do wonder what that means for Gen 10, which, if following release patterns, would release in 2025, and also the Black and White remakes. I mean, the gap between Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was only 4 years, but then the gap between that and Diamond and Pearl remakes was 7 years. I don't think we're going to be waiting 7 years again, but I do feel like it's still just a little too soon. Maybe 2025, and then Gen 10 gets pushed to 2026, but talking about Legends Kyurem specifically, just because, of course, Unova geek here, need to geek out about it, there's a couple of ways they can go with this, and it might not even be Kyurem focused. I actually think that Kyurem might not be the most marketable, to be honest. I'm sorry. I think marketability wise, not for me personally, but marketability wise, Kyurem isn't as interesting to a lot of people. Maybe that's not accurate. Let me know what you think down below. But I don't know if calling a game Pokemon Legends Kyurem makes a lot of sense. You can base the plot on that, and now he's the Fallen Dragon and the Husk or whatever all that stuff is. I haven't brushed up on my Unova lore in a while. I don't know if marketing the game like that is the right choice necessarily. Legends Arceus makes a lot of sense because Arceus is the god of Pokemon and has a lot of plush and is very marketable, and people know what Arceus is. Or they could go a completely different route. Maybe this will be a Unova-based game that's in the future. That's totally possible. Or just modern day, and it's just Legends Arceus gameplay. Maybe it'll be based on the Legendary Musketeers or the Swords of Justice. That's also possible, since we're seeing, and that's actually another great point, we're seeing Virizion and Cobalion, and I would assume Terrakion, come back as Paradox forms for Violet, as future Paradoxes. That might also suggest maybe Johto remakes, because we're getting the legendary dogs with Raikou and Suicune so far. Once again, assuming Insei will happen there as well. So maybe that's a hint for Let's Go Johto or a game like that. Or maybe it's more evidence towards a Unova game. I could talk about the possibilities here for hours, genuinely. I think I'm going to replay Black and White 2 soon, because it's been a long time since I've played those games. Once again, brush up on my Unova lore, really kind of nail down what I think could happen with this Legends Kyurem game or new game set in Unova. I mean, if we get to see the creation of Unova in this new game, that would be awesome, because it is just America. So to see America be built basically in the Pokemon world would be really cool. Or even just future stuff. I mean, that'd be cool too. So no matter what they do, if it's Unova themed and there's a lot of new forms for Unova Pokemon, or if it has any ties to In and Getsis, I mean, this is just pure bliss if this happens. Especially because I am afraid of the Black and White remake if Ilka does it, because I think Diamond and Pearl remakes weren't very good. So, like I said, I could talk about this for hours. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of this evidence potentially supporting a Legends Kyurem game? Do you think it's just a coincidence, or do you think it is them teasing something more? It's probably just a coincidence, but also logically, a game like Legends Arceus Next does make the most sense. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, subscribe for more Nintendo topics like this each and every day. Until next time, folks, peace.